So this is my 2020 Hyundai Ioniq Electric, and these are very efficient electric vehicles. So in this video I'm just going to look at how efficient they are. So compared to modern electric vehicles, these Hyundai Ioniqs have pretty small battery packs actually. This is the later model that has a 38 kilowatt hour battery under the floor there, and the previous generation had a 28 kilowatt hour. However, because these are so efficient, they will actually do more range than other electric vehicles with much larger batteries. Sorry for interrupting, but I thought I'll just explain a couple of features on YouTube which will help you when watching long videos. Firstly, under settings you can adjust the playback speed, and secondly at the bottom of the screen you've got chapters where you can jump to relevant sections of the video. And while I've got you, please remember to add your comments or questions below the video, and also subscribe. Okey-doke. Enjoy the video. So for day-to-day driving, I really don't care about driving this car efficiently because I don't need to, because it's got more than enough range for my normal daily use. So I don't particularly drive this car efficiently. But what I'm going to do in this video is try to drive it efficiently, which is something I've never really needed to do. Right, it's the 15th of August today when I'm filming this, and as you can see the battery is full and we've got a predicted range of 208 miles, and we can see there that I've done 2% this morning, so the battery is now at 98% and we've got a predicted range of 208 miles, which is very impressive for one of these. But as I said, I don't drive it particularly efficiently. I just drive them normally because it's got more than enough for our daily range, because we can charge at home. So let's have a look at some recent driving. We go to energy information, I think, yes, and then history. So over the last week, 5.8 miles per kilowatt hour, 5.3, 5.8, and these are decent amounts of driving, you know, 48 miles there. It's not like this is just a mile or two downhill. 4.4, 5.1, 5.9, and I can go on and on. You can see it's all up nearly at 5.5 to 6 miles per kilowatt hour. So a couple of 5.9s there, nothing over 6 though. But yeah, very efficient driving even without any effort. So what I'm going to do in this video is to see what the maximum efficiency I can get out of this car by putting just a little bit more of an effort into my driving style, and see what I can eke out of this battery pack. But I'm going to give it a proper realistic real world test. So for example, I've got like a 2-mile downhill drive, and I could reset the economy meter now and drive back down to the village and probably get something like 10 miles per kilowatt hour. But I'm going to really keep this real world driving, doing the normal road speeds, but I'm probably going to drive for an hour or two today and get a proper average. So the first thing I'm going to do is reset the trip up there, so I can go down to my accumulated information, push and hold, and now that's reset everything to 0 there. And then I'll go back up to the consumption meter there, which is currently showing 5.3, so that's what I've been getting recently. I'm going to push and hold that, and that resets that as well. So what I'm going to do now is go for a drive. I'm going to keep to normal road speeds, and I'm going to go on a bit of mix of roads, but most of it is going to be slower rural roads. So most of the time it's going to be quiet, so most of the time it's going to be 50 miles an hour. So pretty average driving. I am actually going to go on to the M4 for a little bit, because I'm going to go down to the motorway services and do a bit of filming there as well and get another video out of this trip. So I will be driving on a motorway, and that's going to be 65-70 miles an hour. So as I said, I want to keep this real world, but I'm going to put a bit of effort into how I'm driving, and I'll talk through that as I'm going along. So let's get driving. And what I'm going to do is put the drive mode into Eco. Now that's Sport. There's Eco. So the dash goes green. We've got Eco up there. And what that does is just dulls the power of the motor a little bit, and if I was using the air conditioning, it would reduce the power of the air conditioning and just dull everything a little bit. but for normal driving it's absolutely fine. And I find with EVs, if you start off on eco, you don't notice that you're getting any less power, because EVs have got all this torque and they're nippy, and if you start off in eco you don't miss having that full power. But if you start off in full power and get used to a little bit and then put it into eco, it can feel a little bit sluggish, but it's not sluggish at all. It's just because you've had so much power in the first place. So anyway, I've put it into eco, which is something I never do, and already the estimated range has jumped up to 211 miles. But of course that's an estimation. But anyway, I'm not looking at total range here. That's a bit irrelevant, because I'm not going to be driving all of that, and that's more than what I do in a day and more than what the average UK driver does. In fact, in the UK, the average miles that we all drive is only about 25 miles a day. So we don't actually need big battery EVs for the majority of our driving. If you can charge from home, that is. If you can't charge from home and you're reliant on the public charging network, then it is a completely different story, and having an EV does require that bit extra work. It's very similar to actually driving a petrol or diesel, is you've got to go off and fill your car occasionally, and with an EV you might have to go off and do that a bit more frequently, but of course it does take longer, you've got a waiting time. So that's the difference. But if you can charge at home, it's so much easier. You don't have to worry about charge times. Charge times in reality is 5 seconds, as long as it takes to plug a cable in and lock the door. But anyway, we're going downhill. Oh, I've got to stop here and let this car go through. We're going downhill here, and my average consumption is 99.99 miles per kilowatt hour. So that's why I said I'm not going to do just a quick little trick to trip to maximise the efficiency and sort of trick you all. I'm going to do a proper long drive. I'm going to try to keep this as realistic as I can, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm doing to keep my driving as efficient as I can without holding up people behind me. I'm not going to be driving slow. I'm not going to annoy other drivers. I'm just going to drive normally but efficiently. So with an electric vehicle, it's actually very easy to drive them inefficiently if you use all that power and torque that's available to you. Because with a combustion engine, you've got to get the revs up to 3,000 revs or so to get all the torque. With an EV, you get it from zero. So it's very easy to use that quick acceleration off the line and dart off very quickly and spin the front wheels. But obviously I'm not going to be doing any of that. I'm just going to drive it normally, but maybe just a bit more gently, like that, pulling away for the junction a little bit more gently. But actually that's still as fast as you would pull away in a combustion engine vehicle, particularly with a manual where you've got to change gears. Like we're doing 33 miles an hour already. So anyway, I'll keep driving and come back to you in a minute after a few miles. So how do you drive an electric vehicle efficiently? Well, it's the same as a combustion engine vehicle really. You just drive it gently. But gently doesn't mean slowly. So for example, I'm doing 50 here, which is the speed limit. I've got some cars behind, but they're now 10 to 15 car lengths behind me. Actually, through a village just now, I had the flashing speed sign flashing me, because I was actually breaking the speed limit, which I didn't realise. Not by much, so I'm not going to admit anything on camera. But so yeah, it doesn't mean slowly at all. So it's all about accelerating gently and de-accelerating gently. So if you come up to a corner or roundabout or something and you've got to touch the brakes, then that isn't efficient driving, because you've lost that kinetic energy going forward into friction and heat in your brake pads and creating brake dust, and we don't want to be doing that. So it's all about reading the road ahead a little bit more, and when you need to slow down, you lift off the accelerator and coast up to the junction, roundabout, or wherever you need to slow down, and get a bit of regen back. That's basically engine braking in an electric motor. So you're slowing down on the electric motor, which is putting a charge back into the battery. On the Ioniq, you've got 4 levels of regen, and you can adjust that with the flappy pedals, which generally I don't use. I just keep it in the strongest level of regen and just do all my adjustment with the accelerator pedal, just lightly up and down on the accelerator pedal to adjust my engine braking effect. But today I'm going to be using the flappy pedals, which is taking a bit of getting used to, actually, because I just never used them. I used to. Actually, there I was touching the brake, whereas I should have put it onto regen level 3. So yeah, I could be making a better job of this, but it's just lack of practice, really. As I said, I don't really need to drive our electric vehicles efficiently because I don't need to eke out all the maximum range. So I just drive them how I want to drive them. I don't really think about economy at all. So in this example, I am having to think about using the flappy paddles a little bit, and just then I left it in regen level 2 and I ended up going for the brakes rather than knocking it up to regen level 3. But what I'm going to do is put it back into 3 now and just go back to using the pedal while I'm talking to camera, because it's all this multitasking is making me forget things. But anyway, if you drive an ICE vehicle the same, like drive it as if you got no brakes, you will get huge economy as well. So that's how you just drive an electric vehicle, but it doesn't mean slow at all. So I'm going to do all the speed limits, and I am absolutely sure nothing will overtake me all the time I'm doing this driving. If anything does, I will let you know. I'm going to be completely honest about this. But I'm not going to tell you my average consumption already. Let me just see how many miles. So far I've done 12.5 miles. And I'm getting incredible economy there, but I'm not sure whether that's showing up on the camera. Yeah, I'm going to drive down onto the M4 now at Thiel and go to the Reading East services, where I'll do a little video about charging on those services. So if you want to watch that video, you can click up there at the top of the screen. I'll put a little tab in the screen there. It may not be out until after this one. I'm not sure what order I'm going to release the videos. But then I'm going to do a big circuit round. I might go down to Basingstoke and then come up the A34 or so. I'm just going to drive in a big circle to drive for at least an hour, but maybe 2 hours, and get something that's very realistic. Just quickly, I'll mention about driving in eco mode. You don't have to drive in eco mode to get the maximum economy out of an electric vehicle. That's just there to help you, because it reduces the power to the motor. You can do all of that with your accelerator pedal by not accelerating too quickly. Actually, it's bleeping at me there. We're doing over the speed limit because there's a camera just here. So yeah, to drive efficiently, you don't need to put it in eco. I could get exactly the same economy by driving in normal mode or sport mode. It's all about being gentle with the accelerator, and obviously if you're going to push the accelerator down, you're going to use all that power they're giving you. But if you're just more gentle with the accelerator, effectively you will be doing the same as what eco mode is forcing on you. But I'm going to keep it in eco mode today, just because it's going to force me to drive that little bit efficiently, because I'm going to forget sometimes and go to floor it or drive like I normally would, to be honest. So it's just one of those little tools which helps you, as do the flappy pedals. It's just another tool there to help you drive efficiently if you want to use them, but of course you don't need to use them. So for example, that car in front is turning right there, and I haven't touched the brakes, and actually I haven't lifted my foot completely off the accelerator. I've just gently lifted it up and allowed the regen braking effect, which is motor braking, to slow me down, and I didn't need to lift off the accelerator completely. So it's all about just reading the road ahead a little bit more and just driving gently. So the traffic lights are red. I'm lifting off the accelerator slowly, but still haven't lifted completely off because I don't want to leave a huge gap and annoy people behind me. So I'm still lifting off, and now I've taken my foot off the accelerator, and now I've touched the brakes just to take that last little bit of speed out. And I'm just going to put it on auto hold and hold it there on the brakes. So you can drive economically, or should I say you can drive very economically and still drive what looks normal to everyone else. You're still keeping up with everyone else doing the normal road speeds, but it's just about reading the road ahead a little bit and do not use your brakes. Unless, of course, you need to, and you need to do emergency stop, or you've misjudged it, and then of course your brakes are there to stop you. But you should be able to do all your slowing down on the motor. There are some cars that have quite light regenerative braking effect, like the Stellantis vehicles, for example. They do have a B mode, but it's still light, and it's certainly not one pedal driving like it is in the Ioniq. So with those cars you do tend to have to touch the brakes more often, but as always, just like a combustion engine vehicle, if you can drive as if you've got no brakes, it forces you to leave bigger gaps and read the road ahead a bit, and that results in incredibly efficient driving. So, as I said, I'm going to go on the M4 here, just pulling onto the M4, but not for too long. But I found in the Ioniq, motorway driving is still very efficient. I have done a video about it on the channel, and I think I was getting 5.3 miles per kilowatt hour at motorway speeds. So, they're not like other EVs. Because with an electric vehicle, high-speed motorway driving is the most inefficient, and to get maximum out of them, they prefer stop-start urban type driving, just because your average speed is lower, and all the time you're slowing down, you're getting that little bit of regen. But the Ioniq is such an aerodynamic, light car. It's still pretty efficient at motorway speeds. So anyway, I'm going slow here because I am going to be pulling off in half a mile here, so I'm not going to overtake these trucks. So yeah, if you want to see that video on the motorway efficiency of these cars, I'll put a link to it at the top of the screen there. But I'm going to just pull into the Reading services here eastbound to grab a coffee and to have a look at the EV charging here. So that's me done at Reading services. I'm very tempted to nip up that service road up there, and that gets you back on the local roads. But there are cameras. Yeah, it's just over there. That would mean I don't have to get back on the motorway. Anyway, I'm not going to do it, but if anyone knows, if I did, do you get done for that? There's no barrier or anything on that one. There's just a sign saying authorised vehicles only, and there is a camera on there. Let me know in the video comments below. So I'm going to continue up here for the next junction. Let me just shut all the windows there and carry on driving. I've been driving 2 hours 15 minutes, so I think that's long enough now to get a realistic average. As for my driving, well, it wasn't the best, to be honest. I kept forgetting I was meant to be driving economically. I had nowhere to go, so driving for 2 hours 15, listening to the radio, I was sort of forgetting that I had to drive economically. Quite a few times I had the regen turned off, which is very good. That's the most economic driving. But I would come up to junctions and have to touch the brake, and as soon as you touch the brake, you can't turn the regen on. You can't turn the regen back on if your foot is on the brake at the time, and I did that quite a few times. So it wasn't as economic as it could do, but it wasn't too bad. I was doing normal road speeds pretty much all the time. No one overtook me at all. No one was up behind me because I was driving too slow. I wasn't driving like a granny. I was just doing the normal road speeds, most of the time the maximum speed the road would allow. I've actually driven 64 miles, I just looked up there, so my average road speed was quite a lot lower than I thought. But anyway, it didn't feel slow. I was driving normal road speeds. It's just the sort of roads I was driving on. I did go through Reading and I have been through Didcot, but most of it was sort of 40, 50 mile hour roads. Majority of it 50 mile hour roads. But there's a lot of speed limits now. There's a lot of places 20 miles an hour. I was quite surprised. Anyway, there's another electric car. Not many of those on the roads. That's a Kia Soul. Anyway, my battery is now at 78%. So as you can see up there, hardly used any. So the big reveal, what was my consumption? Well, we can see there on the screen, I averaged 7.4 miles per kilowatt hour. And then if I use the buttons here, we can look at some of my stats. So we've got driving style here. It says 99% was economical driving, 1% normal driving. So the car thinks I did well. We did 64 miles, 7.2 it says there, 2 hours 32. Actually, this is stopping time as well, because I've just been filming this and it's added another 10 minutes on there, so I think we'll ignore that one. What we want is the other one. So there it is, 2 hours 19 minutes driving time, 7.4 miles per kilowatt average, and 61.5 miles. So what does that mean in terms of total range with the 38 kilowatt hour Ioniq here? Well, the car is estimating 166 miles and the battery is at 78%. So I've only used 20% of the battery because I started at 98%. So my economic driving has only been 20% of the battery, and the other 80% is still being calculated at my previous driving, as it were. So this isn't a particularly accurate way because I've done a relatively small amount of economic driving. So taking that 7.4 kilowatt hours, if I maintain that over the whole battery pack, as it were, that results in, let me just do this on my calculator here. So yeah, that results in a total range of 280 miles. So that's seriously impressive for a 38 kilowatt hour battery, and what is quite a reasonably sized family car. These Ioniqs are quite a big car. I think they're a fraction bigger than a Leaf. Yeah, incredibly efficient, and actually I think I could have got better. I think with concentrating a bit, not that I wasn't concentrating on driving, but I wasn't concentrating that I was meant to be driving economically. I think I could get 8 out of this quite easy on an average. For the first part of my drive, where I was concentrating a bit more, I was doing 8.3, 8.4 over quite a lot of miles. So I was expecting it to be about 7.8, 7.9, maybe 8. But anyway, it's 7.4, so that is quite achievable. So I did do all my driving in eco mode, not that that really makes any difference, but I didn't have the air conditioning on. What I'm going to do is put that on now anyway, and then show you the where do I want? Show you the consumption there. So these cars have a heat pump and the air conditioning is very efficient, so it doesn't make a huge difference having the air conditioning on, but it was 21 degrees when I left and I found I didn't really need it. It's now 23 and be in the middle of the afternoon, so I found just cracking the windows open a little bit was quite comfortable. But I must admit, now I'm sat here not moving, it is starting to get a bit warm in here. But anyway, with the air conditioning on, and of course the compressor's on at full whack at the moment trying to get this car cold, it's using 0.75 of a kilowatt. And then what you find actually with the air conditioning is once it's up to its desired temperature on the climate control, that compressor then turns on and off. So you'll find that the energy consumption drops right down and it ends up being about 0.3 of a kilowatt, and then it toggles between 0.3 of a kilowatt for a while and 0 for a while that compressor just kicks it on and off to maintain that cabin temperature. So overall, the climate control, i.e. heating and air conditioning, is very efficient on this car, uses very little. We've also got here the electronics, that's currently at 0.25 or 0.2 to 0.3 of a kilowatt. That's basically the lights, the daytime running lights are running, the dash, all the ECUs in the vehicle. There's sort of 30, 40, 50 ECUs in a modern vehicle, so they're all drawing power. And the car is charging the 12-volt battery all the time you're running. So all of that lot is electronic, so that's typically 0.2 to 0.3 of a kilowatt. So again, very little. The majority of your consumption is going to be that electric motor driving the wheels, of course. So just finally, if I go back to the energy consumption history, so driving normally, as you can see, I'm getting between 5.5 and 5.9 miles per kilowatt hour in the summer. But if you're willing to put a little bit more effort into it and just drive that little bit more conservatively, you're going to get 7.5 miles per kilowatt hour. So is the original Hyundai Ioniq the most efficient electric car on the UK roads? Well, probably the only one that comes close will be the Volkswagen e-up or the Skoda and Seat versions of the same car. They have got very similar efficiencies to this. And then next in the efficiency league would be the Hyundai Kona and the Kia e-Niro. Very similar powertrain to this, but they've got a slightly more powerful motor, so not quite as efficient as this. And then the Tesla Model 3 will be very similar to those. It's just a shame manufacturers aren't making cars like this now, because this one has been discontinued and all the modern stuff just isn't as efficient as these. And the reason why we want efficiency is because then you can have smaller batteries and that makes the cars cheaper. So the original Ioniq here is the efficiency king. It's a shame Hyundai have stopped making this, and all the modern EVs just aren't as efficient as this. They've all gone for the SUV style, which is less aerodynamic, adds weight, and they've all gone for bigger, more powerful motors because they've all gone for performance. So nothing else quite really matches this now in terms of modern EVs. And of course a lot of electric vehicles now, even things like heat pumps are optional, where it is standard on this car. So that's it for this video. If you've liked it, as always, please do click the thumbs up, really does help. If you want to know more about the Hyundai Ioniq, I'll put a link to a playlist in the video description below where you can see all the other videos I've made on these cars. And do subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.